Welcome back. I'm Dr. Cheek and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. And today we're going to talk a little bit about a relationship dynamic that seems to be happening quite frequently nowadays. So we're going to talk about ghosting today and what does that mean and what does that look like. So we define ghosting as someone abruptly disconnecting or cutting off all types of communication with someone that they were in the process or already have an established romantic relationship or friendship with. And they do not communicate this disconnection in the relationship. And for most people, that can feel like a sense of rejection, that can feel like a sense of replacement, and that can also feel like a sense of uncertainty. So there are a lot of emotions that come with being ghosted. So why do people ghost? In relationships or in friendships? Either they are poor communicators. They lack the ability to discuss what's not working for them in the relationship, so simply they walk away. This could be an attempt of leaving the lines of communication open, because if I don't say I no longer want this relationship, or if I don't define what's happening in this moment, there is a possibility that there could be an opening for a future communication or a future engagement should this person decide, the one that's being ghosted, should that person decide to re-engage again. There also could be a lack of interest, and that lack of interest could have been expressed in several different ways on several different occasions, and the former relationship partner, whether that's friendship or romantic relationship, continues to reach out, continues to try to communicate, continues to try to establish a relationship, even though someone has said they no longer want to be in that relationship. And technically that's ghosting, because that person no longer reciprocates the communication. So the person who's trying to communicate can feel like they've been ghosted because there is no longer a response. How does it affect us when we've been ghosted? Ways that it can affect you mentally is that you may feel unimportant. You may feel unworthy in some way. This is a type of rejection that may affect your self-esteem, because now you feel like, what was it about me that made them simply walk away? That uncertainty leaves the door open for so many questions. Also, it may affect you by your ability to trust others. You may start to have a diminishing trust of others. You may not trust that they are going to engage or communicate in ways that are effective. So you may be more apt to be standoffish in relationships, or not wanting to engage fully at the beginning of relationships or in the middle of relationships, out of fear that someone will simply walk away. And that is a diminished trust in an individual, especially if you've run into certain situations or multiple situations where people abruptly cut off communication without explanation. Now, lastly, another way it may affect you mentally is this lack of desire to want to engage, to want to re-engage. You may lack the motivation to form these types of relationships moving forward. You may feel like it's not really a purpose or any gain in continuing to create these new relationships. And to some extent, that's understandable. But what we need to do in the event that someone abruptly disconnects communication with us, there are certain things we can do to kind of manage the emotions or the thoughts that are surrounding the situation. First thing is to understand and accept that people have choices. People have the choice to simply stop talking. Does it feel good? No. Is it the best way to handle relationships? Not at all. Is it a sign of poor communication? Yes. So if that is the case, then ask yourself, why do I want to be with someone who communicates by not communicating? And ask yourself if this is someone you would want to be in a relationship with moving forward. And also check the mental Rolodex for a moment to look for those flags or those signs that you overlooked that let you know that this was the type of person who was incapable of communicating difficult content. Some people have the ability to communicate and over communicate when the communication is simple, when the communication is positive, or when the communication is something that you can easily express. But they struggle to have that communication when that conversation has the ability to be difficult. Did this person give you signs that they were poor communicators when it came to difficult conversations? And what some of those signs could be is whenever you try to bring up a difficult conversation, they would change the topic or become upset and wonder why you want to engage in this level of communication, or disconnect from that communication by no longer speaking to you, or saying, they don't want to have this conversation, they don't want to talk about this. Was this the type of person that anytime you brought up a difficult topic, it was not something that they were willing to discuss. So those are some of the signs that let you know that this person may not be the best communicator for difficult conversations. And their ability to walk away when things become a little bit more challenging is probably higher, it's more elevated. So lastly, what we can do or take into consideration if we've been ghosted is to address that feeling and that emotion and that drive within us to prove to them in some way that we are worthy of their time and their communication and their response. When we've been rejected or when we've been ghosted or when someone has shown a lack of interest, we sometimes feel this overwhelming need to prove to this person that we are worthy of their time and of their effort. However, we rarely take the time out to wonder if this person is worth our own time and effort. So when you find yourself wanting to re-engage with this person, constantly trying to reach out and they're not responding, stop and ask yourself, am I trying to prove my worth to a person that is not worthy of my time? And if that's the case, we have to then take a moment to check that ego and that pride, which are the emotions that are typically driving that desire to prove our worth, and say, is this really worth it? What do I gain by continuing to try to engage with this person who communicates by not communicating? What I hope you take from this conversation today, or what I hope you've learned from this conversation today, is that people have the choice to engage in relationships however they choose to engage in those relationships. If someone has took it upon themselves to abruptly disconnect communication with you and you've had an established relationship with them, ask yourself if you want to be in a relationship with someone who does not have the ability to communicate. Did I overlook some of the signs that let me know that this person was incapable or struggles to have these difficult conversations? And do I feel like I need to prove my worth to someone who is unworthy? And if it's only been a short period of time and you all were in the get to know each other stage, then that behavior is simply saying to you, I am not interested in this relationship moving forward, and I don't feel like we've established enough of a connection that I need to have a conversation about it. Ghosting does not feel good. Ghosting can be very hurtful and harmful. So in any case, if you're able to express your lack of desire to be with someone, simply communicate that. If you struggle with difficult conversations, know that within yourself and learn how to have those difficult conversations so you're able to engage in ways that help someone else understand and allow someone else to move on from a situation, because rejection, and especially rejection without clarity, can be very damaging. So I hope you've learned something from today's conversation. As always, jot down any questions or concerns you may have below. I thank you for taking the time to listen, and I'll be seeing you again soon. Thank you.